In this video, we are going to discuss Wollstonecraft's idea of unconventional womanhood, a detailed study on the basis of Mary Wollstonecraft's essay, A Vindication of the Rights of Women. So, here we are going to discuss the main topics like the importance of education, then role of marriage and friendship, then the status of women in the society, then reason instead of sensibility related to this essay. So, Mary Wollstonecraft, a founder member of feminist movement who argued that, I quote, women are fully rational creatures and must receive an education equal to men, I unquote. She always emphasized the importance of achieving the rights of women and to utilize the opportunities available for them. If the society mistreat womanhood by only distribution of opportunities or through unequal treatment between sexes, then she asked the readers to protest against it and make a change which results in women empowerment. Wollstonecraft was open minded and wished to break the shackles of conservatism. In a nutshell, she was a strong lady with virtues and ideas which are entirely different from what her society expected at that time. She wrote this book as a response to those contemporary events which tended to suppress women, and it is known as the founding manifesto of Western feminism. In this essay, she discusses the existential crisis of women from mundane life to advanced levels, and also, step by step, she questions all the agencies and organizations which differentiates women. One of the interesting facts is that when she authored this book, the term called feminism had not yet been coined. So it's clear that Wollstonecraft has the dignifying chair as the founding member of feminist care theories. She stresses for the importance of having equal education, then for having virtues and participating in social functioning and careers. She accepts the fact that nature biologically made a big difference between men and women. Like men can handle physical harshness, and likewise women can also handle emotional harshness. So, what she is trying to convey is both sexes have their own positives and negatives, which are complementary to each other. She speaks about having gender equity instead of gender equality. So, through this essay, Wollstonecraft breaks many aspects of conventional womanhood and its toxicities and is trying to bring the idea of unconventional womanhood, which gives importance to education and virtue, marital relationship with equality and love, and giving importance for reason, etc. Here she disputes content manuals and essentialist ideas of women's nature. She wanted women from all class and status to be free and virtuous. So, coming to the importance of education, Mary Wollstonecraft gives primary importance for having quality education and virtues. She states women should have an education which is equal to boys. Women should read, travel, and self train themselves. They need education in order to stand up and speak for themselves in front of others. As women are the foundation of family, a better society will make out of self trained women who are enough. Otherwise, if women get early marriage and early pregnancy, they will act like kids who love to paint, dress, and to gossip. Without educating themselves and cultivate their minds, they just end up like brainless creatures who doesn't have the potential to think and creatively work. Such women end up in the evil hands of patriarchy and act as traditional wives and mothers. They can only become a child making machine and a sex toy for their husbands. Without education, they never realize their worth and rights. They just exist and die without getting any productivity out of themselves. In this late 18th century treatise, Wollstonecraft criticizes the social concept that women should be beautiful and their ultimate aim of life is to find a good husband, instead becoming knowledgeable and resourceful. She writes, I quote, the content and manners of women, in fact, evidently prove that their minds are not in a healthy state. For, like the flowers which are planted in too rich a soil, strength and usefulness are sacrificed to beauty. One cause of this barren blooming I attribute to a false system of education gathered from the books written on the subject by men who, considering females rather as women than human creatures, have been more anxious to make them alluring mistresses than affectionate wives and rational mothers. I unquote. So Wollstonecraft criticizes the textbooks and educational systems which taught women to be an alluring mistresses, affectionate wives, and rational mothers instead of becoming a human being who has the capacity to find herself in the fields which she actually loves and crosses. Patriarchal society and its institutions focused on the so called male benefits and higher status, not for the empowerment of women. So, such educational system isn't sufficient for women to cultivate their mind and to develop natural intellectual abilities. So it's clear that when marriage is a woman's only option for raising herself in the world, and she has only trained herself for getting a desirable marriage, it's not strange that she acts like a kid after marriage. Thus, they only learn the art of pleasing men and tend to stagnate intellectually and morally. Being as such immature creatures, they can't govern a family with judgment and build a society with intellectuals. The lack of continuous and meaningful education was the most significant cause of what Wollstonecraft identified as their ignorance, indolence, and servitude. Hence, education reform was especially crucial for them. They should use the opportunity of education not only for becoming a professional or career oriented one, but also for making their brain work in reasoning and making decisions. So, in order to build a healthy society with unconventional womanhood, women should have an education which make them enough capable of realizing and training themselves. In the case of teaching, Mary Wollstonecraft propagated an idea in which wanted to teach students separately on the basis of their performances. In this way, more talented or intellectually high students get promotion where they can focus more. Rest, who possess less talents and knowledge, should need a special attention and focus. So, they should be in a different class. This idea of teaching, which is propagated by Wollstonecraft, is still relevant today. Coming to role of marriage and friendship, Mary Wollstonecraft gives more importance to friendship over courtship. Even if it is a marital relationship, she wishes for friendship. A man should focus on his wife's virtues more than her physical charms. Also, a woman who has virtue won't depend her husband for everything. She writes, I quote, the woman who strengthens her body and exercises her mind will, by managing her family and practicing various virtues, become the friend and not merely the humble dependent of her husband. I unquote. So, according to Wollstonecraft, a healthy marriage relationship should possess the qualities like mutual esteem, understanding, generosity, respect, and compromise in common, and they should have a good companionship. When their sexual attraction fades, they should learn to live in the harmony of friendship. Author respects the concept of marriage, but she states women is more than a child making machine. She wants love and equity in marital relationship. Here, both male and female should be complementary to each other. Otherwise, if you are educated and experienced, she requests to remain unmarried. She here suggests to remain unmarried if you are educated and experienced. unless you receive equality or equity, because sexual pleasure doesn't grow up unless we are willing to. As always, the author criticizes the attitude of society which offers marriage to the women as their ultimate aim and instructs them to behave and live like a perfect wifely material. Here, men tend to give some adoration to women's beauty for the satisfaction of their hormones, and such beauty related compliments makes instant gratification in women's, and thus the men uses them as sexual object. But when women's charms fails, men will run after another woman, as they never respect equal companionship. So, the author says that women should realize that they are not or they are more than the physical charms. They can a good partner or a companion in marital relationship instead of having a dormant relationships or honor servant attitudes. Coming to the next theme, the status of women in the society. Mary Wollstonecraft criticizes the fact that women are only skilled to be part of conventional roles such as becoming a wife or mother, but not for anything that make them financially independent. She states that women always wished for secondary things in their life instead of being virtuous and useful for the society. So, for the betterment of the society, women should use their intellectual capacity and knowledge. If a woman wants to enjoy motherhood and upbring a child, it also needed maturity. But many women lacks it as they love to act childish. If anyone wanted to do domestic chores and fulfill the duty of a homemaker, it also asks for determination and logical reasoning instead of emotions. Also, Wollstonecraft reminds that women can achieve more things other than becoming a good wife or a mother. She envisions women's participation in politics, even though it wasn't practical at that time. Also, she suggests women to achieve knowledge about various fields that help them to reduce their dependence on their husbands and to become free and independent. She writes, I quote, women they can pursue more extensive plans of usefulness and independence. I unquote. Furthermore, Wollstonecraft suggests that the need of becoming financially independent in order to get a stable status in the society. But many women depend marriage as a way to get them independent. So, for having independence and breaking conventional gender roles, one should make use of their own knowledge and capabilities and resources available for them. Coming to the importance of reason instead of sensibility, according to Mary Wollstonecraft, being as an unconventional woman who is trying to get out of the chains of patriarchy, one should gain their emotions and sentiments are in harmony with their reasons. She hates the idea of women's silliness, their silliness of acting childish, meeting fortune tellers, giving prime importance for maintaining beauty, showing interest in physically attracting man, getting into cat fights, gossiping, etc., make them immature and brainless creatures. Such acts craft them with slavish dependence, weak elegancy of mind, exquisite sensibility, and sweet docile manners. So Wollstonecraft reminds that such sensibilities only lead the womanhood to live the life conventional and rusted phase of domestic life. Instead of being sensible, Wollstonecraft gives importance for reason. She says that women should balance their feelings with reason. They should judge themselves, train themselves, and experiment themselves in order to survive in the patriarchal society. Such rational women find their way to becoming empowered and free. Being an emotional creatures who cares more about their physical body and silly feelings, one should have reasoning skills. Both reason and virtue makes women stand for themselves and attain empowerment. She writes, I quote, Women are not allowed to have sufficient strength of mind to acquire what really deserves the name of virtue. I unquote. So instead of going behind immature worldly pleasures, women should focus on their knowledge production and intellectual development. Or they discard the argument that God made both men and women unequally. She states God made both men and women equally by giving their own capabilities to think and act. It's patriarchal society which argue women don't have the ability to think and become virtuous. So Wollstonecraft states that women can exercise reason just like men and they can achieve virtue through knowledge. Based on the idea of unconventional womanhood, women should focus on their head rather than the heart. They should logically analyze and reasonable for each decision rather than being silly and immature. Dreaming a husband, having sexual life, and living fancy lives doesn't empower women. By giving quality education to girls just as boys receive, they may grow by dreaming independent and stable future. So, in conclusion, Mary Wollstonecraft, through the essay A Vindication for the Rights of Women, questions the social attitude which considers women as subordinate, weak, meek, and docile. When their reason and common sense are replaced by emotion and sentiments, they tend to cultivate weakness. Wollstonecraft criticizes the writers who considered women as second sex. For example, Rousseau quoted, "Freedom is for the men." She also hates the notion of modesty, which related to chastity. Instead, she argues that woman who has reason and education is modest. More than everything, she reminds everyone of the need of having co-education and thus making a healthier society which is unconventional. Through quality education, companionship in marriage, being rational, having command over emotions, and giving importance to reason over sensibility, Wollstonecraft gives a practical idea to build an unconventional womanhood where women are self-independent, and free with gender equity.